Chapter 1 Planet Serpo, a record of a visit to a planet several dozen light-years away. The full story of Serpo project and another top-secret project of the Roswell incident. In July 1947, an unidentified flying object crash occurred in Roswell, New Mexico, USA. This incident would later be called the Roswell incident. In the previous video, we introduced the alien aircraft who survived the Roswell incident. But in fact, there is another story to the Roswell incident. This time, we will introduce another story of the Roswell incident, which is the memory of interaction with another life form, Eve, who survived the Roswell incident. Recorded in a top-secret document of about 3,000 pages, released by a person who claims to be a former employee of the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and the shocking records of the contents of the grand project, known as Project Serpo, in which the Eve flew into space and traveled to a faraway planet. In 2005, an anonymous email was received on a website run by UFO researcher Victor Martinez. The sender claimed to be a former employee of the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and said that he had been involved in a very unique project in the past and wanted to release information based on an unpublished report of about 3,000 pages. The project involved the U.S. military recovering a UFO that had crashed in the Roswell incident, protecting the aliens aboard, and conducting a human exchange program between their civilization and Earth for several decades. Victor was skeptical of this at first, but the story sounded very real, and he gave accurate answers to his questions. So he decided to have the entire report sent to him. The contents of the report were so shocking. In July 1947, when the unidentified flying object crashed, later known as the Roswell incident, the military announced that they had recovered a flying saucer, but retracted that statement just a few hours later, correcting it to say that the crashed object was a weather balloon. However, it was undoubtedly two spaceships from an extraterrestrial civilization that had crashed. When the military arrived at the scene, they found a silver, disc-shaped spaceship about 10 meters in diameter lying there. Surprisingly, there were aliens with vine-like skin on board, most of whom had died in the impact of the crash. But they found one surviving alien hiding in the rubble a short distance from one of the spaceships. The soldiers approached cautiously and gave the surviving alien water and food. The alien drank the water, but did not look at the food. The military named the life form on the crashed UFO an extraterrestrial, commonly known as Eve, and decided to call the surviving alien Eve 1 and tried to communicate with him. Eve 1 was worried at first, but gradually opened up when he realized that humans had no hostility towards him. And surprisingly, when Eve taught him human language, he learned simple words in a few weeks and gradually became able to communicate. However, due to the structure of their mouths, it seems that it was difficult for them to pronounce the letters L and O. Afterwards, through conversation with Eve 1, it was revealed that their home planet is Serpo in the Zeta Reticuli star system. He also said that there were some very interesting things in his story. He said that there is a human race on Earth that was created by genetic manipulation, that the Eves have visited Earth many times and had contact with Jesus Christ when he was alive, and that the Fatima incident, in which a Portuguese sister is said to have encountered the Virgin Mary in 1916, was when the Eves visited Earth and made contact with them. During the conversation, Eve 1 requested the use of the translator and communication device installed on the crashed spaceship. So the military responded by removing the equipment from one of the lease damaged spaceships and carrying it to Eve 1. He used the communication device to send 5 messages to his home planet Serpo. The first was that he was the only one who survived, and the others lost their lives in the crash. The second was that he wanted a rescue team to be sent. The third was that he wanted to officially meet the Earthlings who had protected him, and the fourth was that they should start an exchange program between Earth and Serpo. These requests were proposed to Yvonne by the military and the government. The fifth request was to provide the coordinates where the rescue team could land when they arrived on Earth. However, no reply was received from Serpo for a long time, and during that time, Yvonne's health condition gradually deteriorated. However, the military and the government did not waste this period of silence. Yvonne taught the Serpo language to linguists on Earth, and the translation work progressed. As a result, during this period, the Earth side was able to understand about 30 of the Serpo language. Then, 5 years after the first communication, in 1952, Serpo finally agreed to send a rescue team, recover the body, and accept a human exchange program between the 2 planets. However, Yvonne's health deteriorated rapidly, and he passed away in a military facility that same year, unable to wait for his home planet to pick him up. After that, the Earth side sent another message to Serpo, and after several exchanges, it was decided that they would visit Earth on April 24, 1964. This grand project was commonly called the Serpo Project. The plan was to recover the remains of the Eves and send 12 Earthlings to the planet Serpo to live there for 10 years. The US government and military carefully selected the members to carry out the plan, and it took 2 years to determine the selection criteria. The strict selection criteria were as follows: single and childless, more than 4 years of training. Each person had a different special skill, completed basic training as well as special skill training, no criminal record, and could eliminate identity problems while participating in the program. Furthermore, the selected person would be completely erased from the official records and treated as if they had never existed. Candidates were selected from the US military based on these strict criteria. The final 12 people selected were 2 from the Army, 2 from the Navy, 5 from the Air Force, 1 doctor, 1 scientist, 1 linguist, and 4 more were selected as replacements in case these members were unable to participate due to illness or injury. And rigorous training for the project began. They had to learn 19 different types of knowledge and skills, including the usual space training for astronauts, language learning in Serpo, and survival training in extreme condition. Some of the training was so outrageous that they had to live for 5 days in a box the size of a coffin, very deep underground, and only given oxygen and food. The repair of the disc-shaped spaceship recovered in the Roswell incident was also completed, and training to operate it was also conducted. These trainings were conducted near Nevada, so it was no coincidence that there were many UFO sightings around this area at this time. These trainings were conducted thoroughly until the day the Eves arrived on Earth, and finally, the fateful day arrived.